Hi, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Maria. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how I crochet this bunny hat. We begin with a 5mm crochet hook and with white yarn, and this is a number 4 medium weight. So we start with a slip stitch and chain 3. And then working in the magic circle, we are going to do cluster stitches. To do a cluster stitch, you yarn over, you insert into the magic ring, you pull up a loop. You yarn over, you pull through the first 2 loops. You yarn over, insert into the magic circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 3 loops on your hook. That is our first cluster stitch. We are going to need a total of 10 cluster stitches in this magic circle. Again, we are going to yarn over, insert your hook into the magic circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, insert into the magic circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 3 loops. So that's number 2. Okay, there's all 10 of our cluster stitches. Now just pull this tail to close the hole of your magic circle. Now at the top of our chain 3 from the first row, we are going to slip stitch, chain 3. And then in each stitch around, we are going to do 2 cluster stitches. So there's 1 cluster stitch and 1 stitch. And there's the second cluster stitch in the same stitch. So I'm going to continue this pattern until we meet the beginning. Okay, now I'm going to do a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. Then I'm going to do another chain 3 for our 3rd row. And now for this row, we are going to do 2 cluster stitches in the first stitch, and then 1 cluster stitch in the next stitch, and then 2 cluster stitches in the next stitch, and then 1 cluster stitch in the next. And I'm going to continue this pattern until we meet the beginning. Okay, we are going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. We are going to do another chain 3 for our 4th row. We are in this row going to do 2 cluster stitches in the first stitch, and then 1 cluster stitch in the next 2 stitches. So there's 1 and the second. So then 2 cluster stitches in the same stitch, and then 1 cluster stitch in the next 2 stitches. Okay, and then follow this pattern all the way until we meet the beginning. And this here is our last increasing row. So once we're done with this, we are going to do a total of 10 rows with just 1 cluster stitch into each stitch, which I will demonstrate that once I'm done with this. To the top of that chain 3, chain 3, and then we are going to do 1 cluster stitch into each stitch around. And like I was saying at the beginning of that last row there, we are going to do this for a total of 10 rows. So I will meet you guys back here once I have completed that. This is for the ear flap beanie. If you do not want it to have the ear flaps with the braids, stop at row number 8, and then I have another video on my channel of how to do just a simple beanie with this same technique of using the cluster stitch, which makes up a really fast beanie. So if you go to that video, just fast forward to the brim part and it will explain to you easily how to finish off without having the ear flaps if you choose you do not want the ear flaps. Okay, so here was my last cluster stitch. Now I'm going to slip stitch, and now we're going to work starting directly in the ear flaps. So we are going to chain 1. In the first stitch here, we are going to do 2 single crochets, and then in the next stitch we're going to do 1 single crochet, and then in the next we're going to do 2, and then in the next we'll do 1, and then in the next we will do 2, and then finally we will do 1 more. And then we are going to chain 1 and turn our work. We are going to do a single crochet 2 together. So insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, insert into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. That's how you do a single crochet 2 together. Then we will do 1 single crochet in each of the remaining stitches. Which would be 7 single crochets. Chain 1, turn your work, and then we are going to do single crochet 2 together, or a decrease, and then 1 single crochet in the remaining stitches. And we are going to continue this pattern until we meet the very tip of our ear flap. Okay, so 2 together and then 1, and then chain 1, and then the last one here we are going to do a single crochet 2 together and then chain 1 to fasten off, and we are going to now cut our yarn. And we do not need a long tail at all. Pull this tight, secure it. Okay, and then right here you will see the line, our joining stitch. So this here tells us that this is the back of our hat and then this is the front. So counting along the front of our hat here, not including that last stitch that we crocheted into, but the following stitch we are going to count 14 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So skip 14 stitches, and in the next stitch we are going to join our white yarn again, and we are going to do the same thing. So join with a slip stitch, and then we are going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the next, and I crochet over top of my tail to cut back on time and weaving that in later. Okay, so then 2 single crochets in the next stitch, 1 single crochet in the following, and then one more time, 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the following. Chain 1, and go ahead and just leave that tail just like that if you have some left over like I do. Okay, and now from this point on we are going to do the same thing as the other ear flap, and so I am going to meet you guys back here once I complete this, and then we are going to be adding a border around our entire hat. So I just finished my single crochet 2 together, and then I cut my yarn. I did not chain 1. I'm going to now add my blue yarn, and now I'm going to do a slip stitch there or a chain 1, and then in this next stitch here I'm going to do 2 single crochets. And then in the following stitch, so this space right here, I'm going to do 1, and then in the next space I'm going to do 2, and we're going to continue this pattern all the way around the entire hat, adding a very nice border. So like I said, do 2 single crochets in one stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch. When we get to our next ear flap at the top, we're going to do 3 stitches in the top. So I am just going to stay with you guys here to show you how to do this. And then just around the corner here, I did 2, there's 1, and then do 2 single crochets in the next stitch. So just kind of see what looks good, and if you want to if the way that you ended was a little more awkward and you need to do 2 stitches in there, that's okay, it's pretty forgiving. if you need to adjust it a little bit. Okay, so now this next stitch I'm going to do 3 single crochets, and then in the next I'm going to do 1 single crochet, and then again working along the other side I'm going to go back to that 2 single crochets in one stitch and then 1 single crochet in the next. And that is what our ear flap looks like when we add 3 single crochets in that turning stitch at the very tip. Okay, and then in this last stitch, I am going to do 2, so I do 2 single crochets, and then in the same stitch as our first one, I do another single crochet, and then I slip stitch into the next. So that one there, I do not do 3 single crochets in the same stitch, but I split it, so 2, and then I do another one in that same stitch that we did our very first one in. And then you will want to leave a long enough tail for us to weave this one in, because we will not be crocheting over top of that. So here we go so far. There is the hat with the very nice border. Okay, so we are going to start doing the floppy ears for this bunny hat. I am still using my 5mm crochet hook, and I'm going to do a blue ear first, or the inner part of the ear, which will be blue. And we are going to start with a slip knot and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the second chain from the hook, we're going to single crochet, and then we're going to single crochet in the remaining stitches, which is 3 single crochets. And then we are going to chain 1, turn our work. We're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch. So there's 1, 2. And then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And then we are going to do 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Chain 1, turn our work, and for this row we are going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch. Chain 1, turn our work. We are going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 single crochets in the last stitch. We are going to chain 1 and turn our work. We are going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch across. We are going to chain 1, turn our work. We're going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch across. We are going to do this for a total of 20 rows. And I am going to meet you guys back here when I am done with row number 20. Okay, I have completed all 20 rows of our ears so far. Now we're going to start working decreases, and we're going to make a point at the top of our ear. So to do row number 21, we are going to do a single crochet decrease. So what we do to do a decrease is insert your hook into the first stitch, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the second stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops. And that is one single crochet decrease. Now we are going to do one single crochet in the next 4 stitches. And then we are going to do a decrease 2 together in the last 2 stitches. So insert your hook, pull up a loop, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Then we are going to chain 1. We are going to turn our work, and now we are going to do one single crochet into each stitch across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, chain 1, turn our work. We are going to do a decrease in the first stitch. Then we are going to do single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then we are going to do a single crochet decrease in our last stitch. Then we are going to chain 1, turn our work. We are going to do one single crochet into each stitch across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 1, turn our work. We are going to do single crochet 2 decreases. So we are going to do 1 decrease, and in the next 2 stitches we will do our second decrease. Then we are going to chain 1, turn our work. We are going to do single crochet decrease. So first stitch, second stitch. Now I am going to cut my yarn, leaving a not very long tail. Then I'm going to add my white yarn, and I'm going to add it with a slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to turn my ear over. So at this point you want to make sure if you lay your ear flat, it's really important that your tail that we started with is on the left hand side, and that just proves to us that this is the better looking side of our yarn, because if you flip it over, it just doesn't look as well. So this is an easy way if you're having a hard time figuring out what size is the right side, what side is not. Just make sure that your tail is on the left side of your work down here. Okay, so after we did that chain 1, we are just going to do one single crochet along the side of our work here. And I crochet over top of my tails. You absolutely do not have to do that. And usually when I am crocheting around stuff, I will do for like the corners down here, I usually would do 2 single crochets in the corner, but for this pattern we are not. It is strictly 1 single crochet all the way around. And by not doing the 2 single crochets in the corner down here, it is going to make a very nice round shape, which is perfect for adding this to the top of our hat. Okay, and then at the tip of the ear, I'm going to do 2 single crochets in that same stitch. And then if you look here, it actually makes 3 single crochets in the same stitch, because that is the same stitch I put my first stitch into. And then I slip stitch. And then for this, we want to leave a long tail. Okay, so here is my first ear. Now I'm going to do another blue with the white border, and then I'm going to do 2 that are fully white. All of it will be white. And I'm going to pause the video, I'm going to do this, and then I will meet you guys back here to show you the next step of what we do. Okay, I have finished my all white ear and then the combination between the 2. And if you see on here, I think I forgot to mention that I do leave a long yarn end on all of the ears. And why I do that is on the blue and white ear, I will use this tail, you'll see in a minute, to attach it, and then I use this tail to sew it onto the hat. So let me show you how to attach these together. So here is the right side of the ear. I'm going to flip the white ear down so that the wrong side of the multicolored ear is touching the wrong side of the white ear. That way, when these are together, you have the right side out and the right side out. So I have a yarn needle, and I'm going to put my yarn in there, and I just have these right on top of each other. And so the tip here, it's right out to the left. So here's my tip, so I insert it in the same stitch in the back. And then we are just going to do a whip stitch all the way around the ear. Okay, so I am just going to continue this all the way around, and then I will meet you back here once I am done with this part. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So I have so far stitched all the way here, and then I forgot to tell you guys that with our piece of yarn from the white ear, I just bring it right down the center and leave it out just like that, and then I continue whip stitching around, and then that will just be ready for us when we go to sew the ear onto the hat. Okay, so once you're done going all the way around with your whip stitch, you are just going to fasten off your yarn, and I just weave the yarn in and out in a few spots. Okay, now here is our hat, and make sure that the front side of your hat is showing. Remember, you can figure out where the front or back is by finding that line of your slip stitches. So this here is our front, and then I'm going to be adding the ears on just like this to each side. So thread our needle, and I am going to be adding them into our second row of the hat. So at the top of the hat, just count 1, 2, and then I also fold the hat over this way because I would like it to line up with our ear flap. So first, I'm going to pinch the edge of my ear here, and I go through approximately the same side across, and I do pull it one time to where it is like that. And since we used that piece of thread or the piece of yarn from the top of this, you want to make sure that you do not pull it too tight, because if you do, let's see if I can get it to do it. See how the ear is cinching up? You don't want it to do that. That is the one downside of using that one piece of strand like that. But just do it loosely there, and it's fine. Once we connect it to the hat, it is not a big deal at all. Okay, so now I hold it right over top of that second row, and I just go into the second row and then into the ear. And then, like I said, I try to line it up with the ear flap. And then just make sure that you did not go through both sides of the hat. And to avoid that, you can always put like a towel in the hat. That will help, or just keep on checking it. That's just how I do it. Okay, and then after I do a couple, I hold the hat up right to see how it is looking, and I am liking that so far. Okay, so now I go along the top, the back side, and making my way to the bottom. And for the bottom, I grab pretty far up on the ear. That way it kind of holds the ear down in a floppy position. Okay. Cute. Okay, that seems pretty good. There's this one piece of yarn that isn't laying very good, so I am just gonna come up here, oops, and I'm just going to kind of secure this differently. There we go. Okay, now just to secure it, just go in and out a few times, and then you will just, and you can make a knot if you want to make a knot. Okay, I am going to pause the video I am going to go and add my second ear, and then we will be adding braids to this hat, and this is what I have so far. So I'll meet you guys back here in just a minute. Okay, now we're going to move on to the braids for the bottom of the ear flaps. So I am going to cut for each ear flap. I'm going to do 12 strands of blue yarn, and these are going to be 30 inches approximately. So I just line them up and cut them. Okay, and then after I do that part, grab our hat, and it's going to be, we're going to insert the crochet hook right into this hole, and then you grab a hold of these and make sure that they are about even on the end, and you hook them right around your crochet hook, pull them through the hat, and then you will make a knot. And then obviously same thing for the other side. So I'm sorry, I missed a step on that. So after you pull it through, I do another knot. Like that to just better secure it. Okay, so now separate your yarn into even parts. Okay, about 8 strands each. And then you just braid them. And then once you get to the bottom, just make another knot. However, do not make this tight right now. I'm gonna pause the video, I'm gonna braid the other side, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so after we do the braids, now you will line them up together at the knot, and then at this point is where we wanna make sure that they are the same length. So I just kind of hold them both in my hand at the top and at the bottom and pull those tight. Now just trim off the ends. And there is our bunny hat. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like the video. That really helps my channel out. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe so you can see my future videos. And I love to talk to you guys in the comment section down below. Have a good night.